I am the fourth and youngest born into an alcoholic family. When I would ask my mother when my dad's drinking got bad, "About the time you were born," was the answer I would receive. I witnessed and experienced much abuse and violence in my childhood. I was told things like, "I can't stand you," "I don't love you," and even "I wish I weren't your daughter." And getting beaten was something that we all experienced. While my mother was mostly the target of that, my siblings and I also were beaten. My sister was strangled once. My dad tried to shoot me. A few days after I turned 17, I overheard my father, who thought no one was home, with one of his friends going over the plans to burn down our house that night. He worked midnights. It was a perfect alibi, and he was going to kill us, my mother, my sister, and I, while we slept. He had cut our phone line, so I couldn't call for help, and ultimately my mom and my sister and I ran for our lives that day. Over the years, I had limited and awkward communication with my dad. I'm guessing 5 or 6 times I saw him over the next 25 years. Having grandchildren helped. It gave us something to talk about. And while our relationship was surfacey, it got a little better each time I saw him. For many years now, I have helped sponsor Christ in Youth, and this summer was no different. The theme this year was the Lord's Prayer, based off of Matthew 6, 9 through 13. So right off the bat, we have to talk about fathers. God is our heavenly Father, and there are a lot of bad earthly fathers out there, which was not easy for me to hear. Another topic that was really talked about was forgiveness, also not easy for me. One particular night, though, when it was the forgiveness day, I guess you could say, instead of having a speaker, they had youth sponsors or leaders give some testimonies. There was a woman telling her story, and it was very similar to mine. She talked about how she had never actually told her father she had forgiven him. That hit home. And she had also talked about how she'd never asked him for forgiveness when she said she hated him. Again, that also hit home. The trip between Fort Scott and Cleveland, Tennessee, where we go to CIY, takes you right through my hometown of Marion, Illinois. Every year, Dusty and I go. We stop in Marion because they have the world's best pizza and the world's best cookies and cupcakes. Sorry, Jamie. And this trip was no different. We stopped on our way to Cleveland, Tennessee, and we planned to stop on our way home. But on the particular night at CIY, when we were talking about forgiveness, I was really kind of feeling God's leading or stirring in my heart. So I leaned over to Dusty and I said, since we're going through Marion anyway, maybe I should call my dad and try to meet up with him to tell him that I forgive him. However, that's when the internal battle really began. Over the next 3 days, I had a yes, I should, no, I shouldn't, yes, I should, no, I shouldn't debate over and over and over. Ultimately, though, I decided I wasn't going to call him. So we're on our way home from Tennessee, and we stop in Marion to get our pizza. And while my attention was drawn to the seating hostess, I heard Dusty whisper in my ear, "Amy, your dad is here." I looked over, and sure enough, there he was, right there, right by the entrance. Long story short, there was no reason we should have walked in that particular part of the restaurant. We had ordered our pizza for takeout, and you normally go in a different area, not even a part of the restaurant. And also, there was no reason he should have been there. He was planning to go to another restaurant that is never full, but on this particular day, it was. So he went to Walt's Pizza. The timing was just bewildering. It was clearly orchestrated by God. In my head, I said, "Okay, God, I guess you want me to talk to my dad." We sat and we ate together for probably an hour, and my heart was pounding out of my chest. I didn't taste a single bite of that pizza. I was so freaked out. When it was time for us to leave, Dad walked us to our van, but he left his credit card inside with the waitress. So he turned to go back into the restaurant, and I said, "Dad, I need to talk to you privately about something, so I'll wait for you by the door." At this point, honestly, I wanted to vomit. I was so nervous. However, while I was standing there, it finally dawned on me that God had orchestrated this. God, you did this. You just did this. You're here with me, and I have nothing to be afraid of. Immediately, I was calm and I had peace. When my dad came back out of the restaurant, I started talking to him just about how, even though we act like We both have forgiven each other. I thought it was really important that I actually say, Dad, I forgive you. To which he replied, I've never actually said I'm sorry. None of that was your fault. So we talked about that, and just again, I think I probably said it 4 or 5 times, I just really want you to know and hear me say that I forgive you, Dad. And he several times too responded back with, I'm really sorry. But then it came time for me to say the next part. Dad, I also need to tell you, or I need to ask for your forgiveness. To which he immediately argued, you have nothing to be forgiven for. But I said, Dad, I told you I hated you, and I had no right to say that, and I'm sure that must have hurt your feelings, which I don't honestly even know why I said that, because I assumed he never even really cared. But he replied, yes, it did hurt. And I know this may sound crazy, but that made me really happy to hear. All those years, he had cared enough about me to be hurt when I was mean to him. And that was pretty cool. So after a little more talking about just different things, I don't know why he did it, but he put his hands on my shoulders and he looked me in my eyes and he said, you are a beautiful woman inside and out. Wow. He'd never said anything like that to me before. And that was really cool. We hugged a long, deep hug, and we said our goodbyes. Romans 8:28 says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. God had orchestrated that entire thing. I was able to forgive my dad because he had orchestrated those events, but he didn't just orchestrate the timing of that day. Long ago, Jesus directed that I forgive in his teaching. So ultimately, I had forgiven my dad a long time ago because I'm a Christian. Christ forgave me first. But it's pretty cool that he allowed me to be a participant in extending that same forgiveness to someone who really needed to hear it.